What's up, everybody? John Eric Poli here with my MMA news, and today's guest just defeated Daniel Zellhuber at UFC Vegas 60 by a unanimous decision. Pleased today to be joined by Trey Ogden here today. Trey, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate the time here, and congrats on the win. I know it's your first of your UFC career, so congrats.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's start right there, man. First win in the UFC. I'm sure it has to be a memorable one for you there. Just talk about what that's like. I know it's every fighter's dream to get into the UFC. So just what's it like to not only call it home, but to get a win inside of the octagon there?
Yeah, obviously it's awesome. Something that I'm still kind of taking in. It was only a few days ago, so I'm still kind of processing it. I had to pack, get home. I own a gym, so I had to get right back in the gym. And I just, I'm still like downloading it all and taking it in. It's not really how I thought the fight was going to go. So it's like, I thought that I didn't necessarily execute my game plan, but then I also won in his strength. So at the same time, that's cool too. So I'm still kind of taking in the fight, right, from a technical and tactical standpoint, and watching it back and seeing what happened there as well. But overall, yeah, it was a long journey for me to get to the UFC. So obviously, it's a beautiful moment for me, and taking it in.
And we'll get into a lot of the specifics of this fight in just a second. But I did hear you just say that you own a gym. Just talk about what that's got to be like, too. I know it's one thing to be a full-time athlete and training, but it's got to be another thing, obviously, owning a gym and everything that goes into doing that. Just talk about what it's been like owning the gym and kind of balancing all that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's extremely rewarding though. It's owning the gym was my primary goal. Competition was always kind of like a secondary thing. I opened the gym like 2 years ago. I have about 20 fighters under me. I'm coaching full time. I'm on the mat 6 to 8 hours a day. So, I enjoy teaching martial arts. I enjoy being on the mats with everybody. I enjoy the community. I enjoy coaching my guys. All of them are killers. They're doing great. And I feel like it's made me a better fighter, to be honest, because the more I coach, the more I see things in myself from my, like it's like a mirror in that regard. And so, and just the more the information's on my mind and the more I'm watching people do stuff and breaking down opponents and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man, 100%. I know, like, it's funny when I did track and field in college, like, when I got into coaching, it really, like, I was like, man, I wish I knew a lot of the stuff back when I was still competing, just because you spend that extra time teaching people different things, putting yourself in different positions and everything else there. But let's get into the exacts, X's and O's of all this fight here, because it was pretty interesting coming in because your opponent had so much hype built up around them being this young guy with this nice undefeated record. And we know, media and fans and everybody likes to have these nice undefeated records to talk about with people there. Obviously, you come in, you play spoiler. Just talk about the lead up, though. Like, were you at all maybe pissed off at all or angry at the fact that there was so much hype around your opponent coming into this fight?
Well, when I lost the Jordan Levitt fight by split decision, I assumed that whatever fight I went in next, I would be the underdog. So I never even paid attention to it. I really didn't know how thick the narrative was until after the fight. I don't really care. I care about my family, my community, my training partners, my coaches, the people around me. I don't give a shit what the internet says about anything. And they don't know anything about fighting. Like, these aren't fighters saying this, right? These are betting odds people. What do they know about fighting? So, I don't take offense to it. Wasn't something I overthought much. I studied the film. I understood that it was a tough fight. It's a tall task to walk into the UFC and beat someone that's 12-0. Mentally, you got to rise to a level of competition. An undefeated fighter who's on a 12-plus winning streak is going to carry a swagger about them in competition that you're going to have to overcome. So I focused mostly on the task at hand. I didn't pay too much attention to the narrative around it. I've said this before in interviews. Narratives sell fights, technique and tactics win fights. You can't go fighting with narratives, and a lot of these guys get so lost in their head in these narratives that they start to act out narratives, and it blinds their ability to see what is actually in front of them. And when you're in combat, you need to be able to see clearly what's actually in front of you. So technique, tactics, and endurance win fights. Narratives sell fights.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I'm a big fan. I believe the first person I really heard it say was Holly Holm, where she always said, like, how'd she word it? Something along the lines of different strategies make fights, and game planning makes fights, not narratives and things along those lines. She had a very clever way of how she said it. I'm drawing a blank on the exact way that she said it, but it was a perfect way how she described it, much like how you kind of did there. But let's get into now the specifics of this fight, and it's one of the things that we're going to start with here. You actually alluded to earlier when you were talking about the win there, and you said you might have been a little bit surprised. It wasn't exactly how you kind of envisioned it kind of playing out. Just talk about that, because a lot of people were expecting, you included probably, right, a lot of grappling. I think you even said afterwards too, right? You were planning on throwing him right down on the canvas and getting him out of there within 3 minutes. Then you end up in a striking battle on the feet there for 15 minutes. So were you surprised at how this kind of played out?
Yeah, well, I thought all along, that if I stood in front of him for 15 minutes and kickboxed him, that it would be a long night. I thought that was obviously where he's most dangerous. I felt I would have a huge advantage in the wrestling and a much bigger advantage on the mat once we got there. I trained to take him down and submit him. That was the game plan. I trained 16 weeks to do that. And then I kickboxed him and won. So, but I was dominating him in the striking. I blocked almost everything he threw. A lot of them were close, hard to see on camera, but I think he landed like 3 jabs and 2 body kicks and 2 leg kicks. Like the numbers say something else, but I was there. I felt it. I blocked almost everything. I landed on him constantly. And so once I realized that I could strike with him and that I was a better striker than him, then my timing was better than his, and my reads were better than his, and my eyes were better than his. I just decided to kickbox with him.
And by the way, I figured out that Holly Holm line too. It just finally clicked in. Styles make fights. That was the line. Very, very good way of saying it. Anyway, I digress. Back to your specific fight here. You want to kind of break it down round by round a little bit for the fans here. So we'll start with the opening round of the fight. A little bit slow to start off. It seemed like watching there was like a bit of a feeling out process, and then you guys did eventually, obviously, pick it up there. Just talk about that round and kind of what was going on, and then what you saw then that led then to these moments where you're able to just beat him to the punch like that.
Yeah. So we came out. We were staying long. We were feinting. We were trying to feel each other. Like you do in a fight. Sometimes you can find somebody a lot quicker, and sometimes you got to start to get a read on him. I'm a tricky person to strike with, and he is also a very good long striker. And so I think that combination took us a second to calibrate to one another. But so we started like far apart, but within 2 minutes we were standing where we could touch each other's hands for the entire fight. And as the fight went on, we seemed to get closer and closer and closer to each other. I felt like he was probably the one trying to close the range more, which might have been a mistake on his end because he has a much longer reach than me. But yeah, we're striking, and every time he went to strike, I was able to move and counter. And then every time I feinted, he reacted to it. And so I just started realizing that I was winning every exchange. So there was no reason for me to force the wrestling. I was still looking for my takedowns. I think that was slowing him down, where he could tell when I was trying to line his feet up to take him down and make him a little more hesitant. But if you're winning, stay winning. And so I didn't see a reason to force the takedowns. I was going to take them if they were there, and if they weren't, everything seemed to be going my way in the striking. So it was just, the round went quick in my mind, honestly.
Yeah. And then rounds 2 and 3 after that, I mean, pretty much you could say the same round almost, the way how it went. And that was essentially kind of how you were saying there, right? You guys distance slowly closing. Every time he goes to throw, man, you were right there with the counter, and you were just that one step ahead of him the whole entire time. What was it that you were seeing? Was it that whole entire time, like you were saying there, like he was buying your feints and all that type of stuff? And were you surprised that maybe he never made an adjustment? Or obviously, we know that you obviously had a plan of coming in, of looking for takedowns, but then didn't need to use them. So you had, a plan A, B, C, D, etc. Are you surprised at all maybe that he didn't make any adjustments, that you were able to just keep going out there and really getting the same thing done over the course of the 15 minutes there?
Yeah, well, I think it looks like the same fight, but if you really watch the fight and you watch how many subtle feints and movements and resets and foots and gestures at one another and varying of attacks and trying to line each other out, like it was a very, very technical striking match that was basically all about positioning. And so I wouldn't say that he wasn't making adjustments. I never let him make an adjustment because I constantly showed him a different pattern, and all of them looked the same. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sequence patterns that look the same and vary the pattern. And observe the opponent and observe what you think they're becoming aware of, and then change the pattern on them. And I think that I was more present with him than he was with me, and I think that I have more experience than he has. And I'm just a better fighter than him. I'm a more mature fighter than him, and I'm 10% better striker than him in every exchange, and that added up over the course of the fight.
And as you mentioned there, right, about being technical and being in the right places at the right time and all that, obviously the guy on your corner, James Krause, seems like an expert at that. I mean, he's such a great mind in the sport, and he's quickly going through the ranks here as one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the sport, because he's really has such a great mind for it. Just what's it like having him as a coach and being able to learn from him and being able to pick his brain and everything. He's so good at what he does.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to have him as a coach, but it's completely normal to me because he's the only MMA coach I've really had. I had another coach for some of my amateur fights, but most of what I've done has been with Kraus, and he's been there since my last amateur fight. So we've had 22 consecutive fights together. We've been training together like 6 years, at least, probably 8. I've lost track of time, obviously, but a long time, man. So it's awesome. It's great to be with one coach for that long as well. We vibe good together. It's great. He knows my style really well. He knows, 22 fights. You really get to know each other in a competition setting.
And I was gonna say, I've noticed a lot of times athletes will say like when they have been with the coach for a long time, that's like almost like your brains are like one. Like you come back in between a round, you guys are thinking the same exact thing. Do you have you noticed that now over the course of your last so many fights since you guys have had so much time together?
Yeah, I don't know, like if I would say that we're like always thinking the exact same thing, but we always know where each other's mind is at. And so I think that yeah, I think that we vibe really well in corners and in between rounds and in the gym and everything. And if you go back to some of my fights in like LFA from like years and years ago, and you listen to Krause's coaching and how I'm responding, I mean, there's tons and tons of examples of how well he knows my game and how well I know the system that he teaches. So you put them together, and it's awesome.
And there it is, just like that. And now, what's going to be next for you? Do you have something in mind? I know you're back in the gym, but I know you have a lot of other stuff going on, obviously outside of the gym too, which you could talk about too as well. But do you have a kind of a game plan of when exactly you want to get back in there?
Not necessarily. Normally, I would, but my wife is due with our first baby in December, the first week of December, and I did do a 4-month fight camp for this one, so I just like got to figure out the whole baby thing, and adjust to that and see where we go from there. So because of that, it was like I couldn't really think past this fight because I had this tough fight, and then right afterwards, I knew it was going to be time to prepare for the birth of our baby. So that's kind of like in my mind, it seems like the next thing for me to do is focus on that and just see what comes from there.
So how excited are you to be a dad too? Obviously, it's a very exciting thing, and obviously, it's a major life-changing thing too. Like you said, you need time to figure out things. Just how excited are you for the next? I was gonna say upcoming months. Really, it's the next however many years because the fatherhood's a full-time job all day, every day, 24/7.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're me and my wife are both in our 30s. We're well established, so I think it's a perfect time for us in our life to do that, and we're really looking forward to it.
Now, do you plan on being one of the athletes that has the baby around the gym all the time? Because I always love the athletes that do it, and the baby's crawling around, they're playing with the equipment and all that.
Yeah, especially since I spend most of my day in my own gym. I assume that she will grow up there. Jiu-jitsu is a mandatory thing for my household. That's a mandatory discipline. So yeah, she should be a killer on the mats pretty young.
Awesome, man. A lot of good stuff there. Congratulations with everything. Hardworking guy, too, that you are there. I really appreciate the time. Last thing before we head out, social media so people know where to follow you at. Obviously, I know you plugged the gym already. You can go ahead and plug it again. You have any other sponsors or management or anybody like that you got to give plugs to? Take it away. Floor is yours.
Yeah, Marathon MMA. I think it's marathon_MMA on Instagram is the really only the social media I mess with. And then nativehempco.com if you're looking for premium CBD or Delta 8 and all kinds of other concoctions of cannabinoids that they're doing. My man Rich is a scientist down there. If you're in Kansas City, they're in Lee Summit. go check them out. Tell them I sent you. If not, they do ship to all 50 states for free. Check them out, nativehempco.com.
All right, Trey, thanks again so much for all the time here today, man. Really appreciate it. And best of luck with fatherhood and running the gym and everything else. Busy schedule there, really. But I really appreciate you making the time for today's interview with all that going on. And I appreciate everyone that watched today's interview. If you liked it, please make sure to go to the bottom, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and keep going to My MMA News, checking out all of her great work. Go to her social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure to go there, give us a like and a follow if you haven't done so already. And if you want to find me on Instagram or Twitter, I'm at John Eric Poli. We'll see you later, everybody.